Thank you. Welcome to those in the Del Mar Center Hall, those on Zoom, and later on YouTube. My name is Linda C. McCabe, and I am the current chair of the Sea Ranch Forum. Sea Ranch Forum is not an official function of the Sea Ranch Association. It is organized by Sea Ranch members and is independent of the board of directors and staff, and was originally founded in 1973. This particular meeting is a joint effort between the Forum and the Sea Ranch Vision Committee, and I want to thank Cynthia Bogalub and Christine Kraling for their help. And today's topic is inspired by this being the 60th anniversary year of the founding of the Sea Ranch. And it is 60 years retrospective of the Mendonoma Community, a celebration including the founding and evolution of key institutions in our community. We will be hearing Thank you. We will be hearing from 9 different spokespeople from these key institutions of our community. Each one will be giving a 10-minute presentation, and we will be going in a mostly chronological order. So please hold any questions you have until the end. Many of them also have displays at the back of the room in case you would like to learn more about them and how you can help support these vital organizations. Thank you. Next is Carolyn André, Chair of Coastal Seniors.
Hi. Welcome if we have any new Sea Ranchers here to one of the oldest communities in the state. But a lot of us are pretty immature acting. So.
Carolyn,
Can you speak
bring
on
the
mic?
microphone to you, closer to you, and speak into it.
Okay, can you hear me?
That's better.
I was just saying that a lot of us older people at the Sea Ranch are pretty immature, so maybe we appear a little bit younger. But I'm in the right place, I think, to talk a little bit about Coastal Seniors, and I'm the board chair there. I'm going to start with a photo because Linda went after me for doing a very researcher-like presentation, and I apologize to all of you now that I've seen all these wonderful photos, but you're only going to get 2 from me. This shows a fundraiser we put on called March for Meals, and one of the goals behind this was to get people outside. We do that at the park at the end of the Sea Ranch next to the river. And if you're a very able walker, you can walk all the way to the end near the ocean, go down to the ocean and walk back up again. But we also have people there with wheelchairs or just walking on their own or with walkers or whatever. And at least they get outside and mingling with people. And in addition, they have some fun. These, however, are volunteers who are also participants. And I want to say our volunteers have a lot of fun doing what they do. These people do things like fill up grocery carts with pennies and push them all the way down to the ocean and back up. That wouldn't be my kind of fun, but they seem to enjoy it, and they usually win a prize out of it. But volunteers are extremely important to us. We could not deliver. I mean, we have a good staff. We have 10 to 12 people at any given time. There's no way we could deliver what we deliver without volunteers. That's a hint. Coastal Seniors started out as something called South Coast Seniors. It was mostly women from Mendocino County working in their houses to make meals and taking them to people who needed them. And that started in the early 70s, and over time, some of those meals, a few of them, went to some seniors in Sonoma County. But that wasn't until much later, and they were not a charity, they were just women working out of their houses. And then in 1981, they became a charity. And over time, you know, they started with meals that started in the 70s. One of the most crucial things we offer, obviously. They started senior lunches in actually Wallala first, and then in Point Arena in the 90s. Spaghetti dinners, there were one or two in the 80s, and then in the 90s they started, although it wasn't monthly. We did that later on. Bus service, we had a regular big school bus type bus, and that was in the 90s. And then they also hooked up with people who were in Wallala who ran a car service where people were picked up and driven somewhere, to Ukiah for a doctor's appointment, things like that. And that went out of business several years ago. Unfortunately, it was a very good service. And food banks started in the late 90s, though was not monthly as it is now. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to say anything about slides. So
Yeah,
it's
fine.
on
I'm
Coastal
just trying-
Seniors board changes.
It's,
We had some changes in 2013. I was elected as a board member, Shirley Marks, who had been there for years, didn't retire, stayed on the board, but moved out of that position. We got some more people from the Sea Ranch because we were interested. We had maybe one or two people, for example, who got meals at the Sea Ranch, and that was about it. And by the end of that year, it had gone up some, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But I do have a background as a researcher, and I knew what the demographics were of the Sea Ranch. 70% of the people were seniors by 2013. And actually, I knew we were heading toward 80%. And we were also interested in serving Annapolis and Stewart's Point. Not very interested in going beyond that just because of the distance. And our office was in Point Arena, and we go all the way up to just below Elk. And it's hard to get volunteers to, that's a lot of coastline and 20 miles inland, and it's hard to get people for that. Next slide, please. So we started some research with only Mendocino people and found that the worst issues among the oldest were loss of a spouse, which was the worst, but also surprisingly bad, at least we hadn't thought about it very much, was loss of a driver's license. And that really limited people's lives. A lot of them were isolated and lonely. They couldn't drive at night. And many people my age and friends of mine are finding that's getting harder and harder. And also our large bus took too long to pick people up to go somewhere and then take them back home. We picked people up and dropped them back at their homes. So that was a lot of stops. They wanted more socialization with fewer people at a time, events with rides, and younger seniors, not surprisingly, people in their 60s, 70s in good shape, wanted more activities like classes, dances, going out to dinner, to movies or a play or something. And so we wanted to go further and do research in Sonoma County. New slide. I happen to know a very good research and strategy organization. And André Associates was located in Berkeley, but I had a couple people come up here for a couple weeks. And we interviewed 100 people at the Sea Ranch and 30 people at Stewart's Point in Annapolis. And we did 8 focus groups in Sonoma County among various ages. And what we found, next slide, please. First of all, the name South Coast Seniors, not too surprisingly, wasn't real helpful to people living at the Sea Ranch who kept saying to me when I was interviewing people, I don't live on the South Coast, at least not aware of it. So we had, they had no idea that we delivered or did various services at the Sea Ranch. And so we changed the name to Coastal Seniors immediately. They talked about wanting activities, again, that don't require a big bus. They wanted to feel more like going out with friends, doing what they used to do, just having us help them do it. And among more active, younger seniors, again, it was getting out, going to events, particularly at night, but also daytime classes and so on. Next slide, please. Among the older Sea Ranchers, most of them, and these were mostly people who were quite isolated in their homes, still had one or two friends, but they couldn't get back and forth to see each other. So they were mostly focused on their old friends and us being able to make that happen and get them there safely. They were also interested in a way to meet new friends, but weren't real sure they were up for it, but wanted to try it because they knew they needed more socialization. They were really lonely, and that's still true today. And they were also open to maybe having phone calls with people instead of visits, if that was something that could work out. And they also talked to us, which we hadn't heard a lot before, about wanting help staying in their home. So in other words, they needed to be able to get to doctors. We don't have a lot of those around here. So that necessarily means going to places around us, as you're aware, and particularly by the time you're seeing specialists. And also shopping, and shopping for food, but also animal, pet food. Finding out about caregivers, all sorts of things that could help people stay at home. Next slide. So the results of the research was fairly obvious. We changed our name, as I told you, to Coastal Seniors, and advertised much more often to Sonoma County people as well as Mendocino County. We turned in our old bus and got 2 7 or 8 passenger buses. And they are going every single day of the week. And the advantage is not only the issue people brought up about how long it took to get back from something if they were the last person to be dropped off, but also that it's possible at the end of the week, Thursday, Friday, we go to other towns. That allows us to have one bus potentially going to Ukiah and the other going to Santa Rosa. And we didn't have that opportunity before. Or if necessary, someone could go do errands for certain people while someone else drove to Santa Rosa that day. We started our Out and About program, which was the activities program that people wanted of various kinds. Classes, dinners, movies, etc. And we started what we call the Friendly Visitor Program, which is putting together 2 people, one who's visited, one who's the visitor. And for various reasons, that doesn't always work that well. So we're kind of reworking that if we can. We started doing much more help with groceries for people, as well as getting people, volunteers who would shop for groceries and deliver them to people who are homebound and then get reimbursed for it. Much more shopping, doctor visits, lists of health aids, lists of all sorts of things that people can use, again, to stay in their homes. And we started the March for Meals, which I showed you a photo of at the very beginning, again, to get people outside and get the idea of exercise, particularly to older seniors, because moving is really important. There are still some things we're not doing well. One is we're not finding enough volunteers now. And here's what's happened. When I started in 2006, I was a volunteer for Meals on Wheels and have been ever since. We had 25 people we delivered to in a day. Today we have 80. We do almost 30,000 meals a year. It's a lot. And again, now we also have Timber Cove because nobody was servicing them. And we picked up an Indian reservation on the way there too. So we've added people and distance. But our volunteers, because our office is in Point Arena, basically have to start from Point Arena. We used to be able to do some of that out of the Wallala Community Center. That's gone now. So some people are going, 70 miles. I do about 65 a week. It's not nothing. And if you ever decide to volunteer for Meals on Wheels, I have a really beautiful, great car. It's about this far from the ground. That means I get in and out of it 30 times when I do Meals on Wheels. Don't get something like that. It doesn't work well. We have to figure out what to do about a Wallala lunch spot because we're not serving Wallala well enough with any of our programs because we're not close enough. And that's why we're very interested in getting into the Wallala Community Center and being part of that, because that puts us much more in the center of our territory, and we really owe service in the center that's as good as that's in Point Arena or Manchester. We are going to have some real money problems. You probably know that senior programs are being and are going to be cut, and we don't know exactly what that means. We already, for the last fiscal year, have gotten no money from Sonoma. So that's going to be a real problem for us. We need to figure out how to find people who are willing to be what's called a friendly visitor. And Coastal Seniors is also working with the Vision Committee, which is supporting this program today as well, to try to do that. So we may do that on the Sea Ranch through the Vision Committee, but we need it to be a stronger program in the rest of the area as well. And if anybody has any ideas, please get in touch with me. And I left some cards at a back table. You can call me or email me. The problem with that program is the people who need to be visited don't feel comfortable having someone coming to visit them. In other words, they feel kind of pitiful. I need to be visited, and this person who doesn't need that comes to visit me. It doesn't feel equal. And that was the way the program was set up when we originally were funded by someone to do it. But we need to rethink that. And I've done it in certain ways where it did work, but it wasn't really in a very straightforward way. I told everybody they were the person visiting. even though one of them wasn't. And so they felt a lot better about it, but we can't do it that way anymore. So if any of you have ideas, if you want to volunteer, please pick up a card back there, call me or email me. And I have one more picture just for Linda. And also to let you know, if you do volunteer, people have fun, but they get exhausted. And we do let volunteers rest at the end of their shift. Thank you.